Hey guys, last year Apple launched the M1 chip, which was the first personal computer chip made from 5nm technology and the first SoC from Apple. And carrying the tech forward in the October 2021 event, Apple launched the M1 Pro, which is the first Pro chip for the MacBooks, and the M1 Max, tagged as the largest and most capable chip ever created by Apple. Living by its tags, the M1 Max has 57 billion transistors. And as of launch date, this is the largest transistor count in a commercially available microprocessor. Also, this transistor count is 1.7 times that in M1 Pro chip and 3.7 times that in the M1 chip launched in November 2020. Speaking of the M1 Pro, it has 33.7 billion transistors, which is more than twice of the M1, which had around 16 billion transistors. Comparing to the M1 chip, which had 8 cores, 4 for high efficiency and 4 for high performance, the M1 Pro and the M1 Max have 10 cores each, of which 8 are for high performance and 2 are for high efficiency. This increment in the high performance cores allows the M1 Pro and the M1 Max to deliver up to 70% high CPU performance compared to the M1 chip. Talking in terms of GPU, the M1 Pro has 16 GPU cores, which is 8 more than the M1. This makes the M1 Pro 2 times faster than the M1 chip in terms of GPU performance. And the M1 Max is not behind. It has around 32 GPU cores, which is 16 more than the M1 Pro. This makes it about 4 times faster than the M1 chip in terms of GPU performance. The count for the neural engine cores has not changed and it remains at 16 for the M1, M1 Pro and the M1 Max. One of the most requested configuration changes after the release of M1 chips was the amount of RAM or unified memory, and this has been increased to 32 GB in the M1 Pro and maximum of 64 GB on the M1 Max. The M1 Pro doubles the memory interface width and brings faster DRAM, thus allowing it to deliver 200 GB per second of memory bandwidth. That's about 3 times more than the M1 chip. And again, not staying behind, the M1 Max again doubles the memory interface width to deliver about 400 GB per second of memory bandwidth. That's about 6 times more than the original M1 chip. The M1 Pro supports up to 2 XDR monitors and the M1 Max supports up to 4 monitors. While the original M1 chip had its dedicated media engine with a bundle of features for encoding and decoding media, the M1 Pro adds ProRes Accelerator to the media engine, which allows it to support multiple ProRes 4K and 8K video streams at one time, but just use a fraction of power. The M1 Max has 2 such ProRes accelerators. Apart from all this, we have a dedicated display engine and more I/O controllers to allow higher I/O bandwidth. So that's a small comparison between the M1 chip, the M1 Pro and the M1 Max. If you liked the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more such Apple updates. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.